Spring ball is well underway now, and we've gotten to talk to Kirby Smart. We've gotten to talk to some of the players. A lot has been going on the last week. Pro Day happened, obviously, so there's just been a ton of information that's been thrown everyone's way. One of the biggest pieces of information, though, that has come out is that Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington will not be practicing and playing this spring, and that's going to leave some time and some reps for some other guys to step up and maybe cement themselves in the depth chart. So I'm going to talk about that, how that might be a blessing in disguise. That's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about guys like that. So if you want to check this out, click the link below, DAWGSTRUCTION, our commemorative book. But Ryan Curley from Dog Post here. Why could these injuries be a little bit of a blessing in disguise, that cliche that we like to use a lot? And don't get me wrong, of course you want Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington out there, and of course you want them to be 100% healthy. Do not twist my words here. But with them being out, that leaves a lot of open reps and looks at other guys that are ultra talented. Eric Gilbert is the first one that people like to talk about in that regard. Eric Gilbert's back with the team. We know the talent that he is. We know that he was a former 5-star, a former top 10 recruit. You're getting a 6'5", somewhere around 250, fluid tight end receiver combo, a little bit similar to the way that Brock Bowers is a tight end receiver combo. A guy that's just a beast, another freak athlete. I use it a lot. Another freak athlete that could be a real weapon on this Georgia team. We know that the talent is there as long as it all comes together. There's lineups that could have Eric Gilbert, Brock Bowers, and Darnell Washington out there at the same time. That is a nightmare for a defense. You are freaking out the night before if you're a defensive coordinator and a head coach, in my opinion. How do you line up against guys like that, especially when you have Kenny McIntosh and A.D. Mitchell and Lyle McConkey out there as well? That's the possibility for Georgia, and that's where we're at. A lot of people thought Eric Gilbert would be just a wide receiver, kind of a slot guy, but I think they're going to use him as a mixture of both. I do know that he is working with the tight ends. That is what's going on at the moment, and it makes a lot of sense with Bowers and Washington out for a guy like Eric Gilbert to be working with the tight ends. But that's the reality right now, is that he's working as a tight end. But of course, I think they're going to figure out, Todd Monken's going to figure out ways to mix that in. Another guy, though, that Matt DeBerry has come on here and talked to you a lot about is Oscar Delp. Someone else that's going to get a lot of time this spring. This is huge for development for a freshman. I think he was the second best tight end prospect in college, in high school football this past year. Someone that Matt DeBerry was all over that story. He went and watched him a lot, speaks super highly of Oscar. He's 6'5", around 220, 230, fluid route runner. I've seen him play. I've watched the tape. Dude's really good. Another guy that's going to get those reps in that time and be more entrenched into this offense. And that way, when you're looking at Georgia's weapons, all of them know the system. All of them know that they can play. One of the biggest blessings for Georgia is that they get to practice against each other, and we've seen the players talk about how difficult Georgia's practices are. So one of the good things about Georgia is you're practicing against elite talent. You're practicing against a bunch of 5-stars. When they practice against themselves, it is as good a preparation as any for other teams. So Oscar Delp's going to come in and play against the number 1 and the number 2 defense this spring, and he's going to get a lot of looks at G-Day. So Eric Gilbert and Oscar Delp are two names to really look out for this spring, guys that are going to potentially earn their reps for the fall right now. The ideal scenario and the best scenario for Georgia is that Bowers and Washington are healthy come fall, and I think that's the trajectory that we're on right now. But Georgia's going to blow people out, and Georgia's not going to be in a close game every week. It's not going to happen a lot, not with the talent, not with the landscape of college football. Oscar Delp and Eric Gilbert are going to be worked in there, and they're going to be weapons for the next 2-3 years for Georgia. And something that has been not necessarily a problem, but for like the last 6, 7, 8 years, is that Georgia hasn't had all these elite weapons on the outside and elite weapons at tight end. I mean, who are the better receivers of the last 10 years for Georgia? Terry Godwin, Chris Conley, Javon Wims. Those guys aren't superstars. Georgia, the last 2 or 3 years, is starting to change. There's more star talent as far as weapons go. We've seen George Pickens the last couple of years. Brock Bowers has turned into a star. I think A.D. Mitchell is a star and will become an even bigger star. And now you got more names. Eric Gilbert, Oscar Delp. And then you got Riley Goody behind them. Someone that's, I think, could end up playing like a John Fitzpatrick role in the offense at one point. I mean, he can do that. He's been on the field before. But the tight end room is absolutely insane for Georgia. Bowers, Gilbert, Washington, Delp. Those four, there's no better tight end room in college football. And the best tight end in college football is on Georgia. And Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is one of the premier weapons in college football. Wide receiver, running back, tight end, doesn't matter. He's one of the top 3, 4, 5 guys in college football as far as a weapon that you can use. Now, Georgia's offense can be really, really good, and they can put up 40. I think they're going to put up 40 points a game again with the guys that they have. It's getting ridiculous. The recruiting for Kirby Smart, we've seen it. It took a few years for it to really all come together. And what happened when it all really came together? A national championship. I think there's going to be more national championships in Georgia's future. It may be this year, it may not be this year. They'll have a shot. But one of the differences in the Kirby Smart Georgia teams the last couple of years versus the end of Mark Richt and the beginning of Kirby Smart is the amount of weapons that they have and the amount of skill that they have for quarterbacks to throw to. The running backs have always been there, and I think they'll be good this year. But the weapons are different. The last 2 years, Georgia, and I'm not naming some of these really good talents on the roster right now. And I think that says a lot. When I'm not mentioning Arian Smith and Marcus Rosemy-Jackson and Dominic Blaylock and guys like that, that goes to show you how talented Georgia's offense is compared to what it was. And 40 points per game, it's going to be a high-powered offense, I think. And I think Todd Monken has done a really good job with it, especially if Stetson Bennett is the starter. That's the presumption now. We know that he has chemistry with these guys, and they're going to have spring to work up chemistry with these guys. I'm really excited for G-Day to get a good look at people. It's the first really good look at what you have heading into summer and the fall, and so that's why I'm really excited, and we'll see you there.